another lying spirit. Now notice these apparitions in terms of the actual seeing of the Mary, or the apparition that calls itself Mary, is seen by few people, like one person, Juan Diego, then the 3 children, then these 2 children. But the most witnessed apparition was in Zitoun in Egypt, and here's an account of that from a scanned book pages. The book is called Our Lord's Mother Visits Egypt in 1968 and 1969. Now, Wikipedia first gives us the background. This is the church where she appeared. According to purported witnesses, the Virgin Mary appeared in different forms over the Coptic Orthodox Church of St. Mary at Zitoun and so on. And it says they were seen by millions of Egyptians and foreigners, including Copts, Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, Jews, and people of no particular faith. The sick and the blind are said to have been cured, and many people converted to Christianity as a result. Now, let's look at the reports. I don't know if you can see this, so I have to read it for you. It says, heavens opened. The first vision at Zitoun occurred on the night of Tuesday, 2nd April 1968, a group of Muslim workmen employed by public transport system had arrived at the gate of their garage, which was opposite the Church of St. Mary. And then it says, 2 of the workmen by the garage gate put down their mugs of tea and stared in mute belief at what seemed to be a white lady kneeling beside the cross on the top of the dome that is up here. There was a flurry of agitated whispering and so on. They thought she was going to jump. They thought this woman was a suicide person. And so it says, they said, lady, don't jump, don't jump. And he went off to call the fire brigade. At that moment, the lady rose to her feet, revealing herself as a luminous being dressed in shimmering robes of light. And this is a photograph taken of it there. One of the women below cried with electrifying comprehension, Our Lady Mary. And hardly had the cry escaped from her lips when a flight of glowing white doves seemed to appear from nowhere and hover around the apparition. So there's a picture of one of the doves. And then it says one of the men who was pointing at the lady, his finger had been damaged and he had to have surgery the next day. But he found that when he went to the hospital, the surgeon was astonished to find the finger completely healed. And this was the first known miracle. And then exactly a week later, another apparition and another in rapid succession. And this next page here, it says, occasionally the Virgin could be seen with the infant Jesus cradled in her hands, or with Saint Joseph, or with the Christ child at about age 12. Immense multitudes of Christians, Jews, Muslims, and unbelievers came to Zitoun to see the vision for themselves. The crowds reached estimated 250,000 nightly. At each appearance of the Virgin, a deafening cry would ascend to the tumultuous thousand, saying, we believe in you, Saint Mary. We witness to you, Saint Mary. Great numbers of Muslims who had been kneeling on their prayer mats, reciting verses from the Quran in praise of Mary, would raise their voice in fervent hymn to her. So notice this apparition, which people said was Mary, and notice it says here that she appeared with Jesus as an infant child. So notice the reduction of Jesus to the child, so that the emphasis is on Mary. And notice people were supposedly converting to Christianity, but not the Christianity of the Bible, the worship of Mary. And then, brethren, we have signs and wonders in idols. According to the Newsday magazine, the enduring mystery of the weeping icons. And here's a newspaper report carried here. Pagona Katsunis, this is a woman, was kneeling before an icon, and this icon is a picture of the Virgin Mary on March 16, 1960, when she saw something almost unbelievable, a small tear quivering on the cheek of the Blessed Mother. And so on and so forth. It says here 4 Newsday staff members, including reporter Jim Hajin, witnessed the event. I had to be convinced. I was skeptical, said Hajin. But after a priest allowed him to examine the lithographed icon, he changed his mind. Miracle is a pretty strong word, but I don't see what else it could have been. And because of that, they took the icon and enshrined it in the church for people to venerate it. It says here, after they were taking the icon to the St. Paul Church to be enshrined, it says 3 white doves appeared swooping over the limousine and the multitude of people who had gathered at the entrance. After the divine liturgy, Pastor George remarked that a great sign and a special blessing from above has come to us and to the world. And so St. Paul became a church crowned with a special blessing, and a steady stream of visitors came from near and far to venerate or to worship that icon. So you see, that icon promoted idol worship, breaking of the second commandment. And so we have weeping paintings of Jesus. This was carried by CNN. Jesus painting said to wink and shed tears in Bethlehem. And it says Sadiqa Hamida, a Muslim cleaner in the church, said she was the first to see Jesus weep. They were real tears, red tears, Hamida said. It was beautiful, so beautiful. And that happened in November 29, 1996. And then we have pictures of Mary and Jesus that are oil is coming from them, and they collect the oil in the containers. We have statues of Mary bleeding oil and blood. We have statues of Mary bleeding from the eyes. We have statues of Mary leaking oil, crying oil, tears of oil. We have statues of Jesus bleeding, statues of Mary bleeding again. We have people who actually manifest the wounds that Christ had at the crucifixion. That is, they get wounds in their palms, wounds on their feet, wounds on their side, and the blood comes out of their eyes. As when, you remember when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he sweated great drops of blood. We have people manifesting these things. Here's this woman with the wounds on her feet and on her hands. We have this young girl here with the marks of the crown of thorns on her face, and she's bleeding. And so all of these things, we have this man known as Padre Pio. He bled from his hands and his feet. And recently, in April 25th, 2008, the Catholic Church exhumed his body and put it in display in a glass case for people to come and venerate him. And he had been 40 years dead, and they exhumed his body, put it on display for people to venerate. And by the way, the papacy regularly does this. They take body parts of those who they consider saints and send them all to all the cathedrals in the world for people to venerate. That's nothing unusual. Then we have here the bread, which is used in the communion. All of a sudden, they started to bleed and develop blood clots. And miracle of miracles, when the bread was put in the mouth of this woman, it turned into blood, real blood. And so, brethren, if I had been in the Catholic Church long enough to see all of this, do you think I would be able to believe in the Bible 100%? It would take a miracle for me to believe in the Bible 100% if I had seen all of these signs and wonders. So I thank God that I was not there long enough. But the miracle of miracles is the miracle of Lanciano. In the city of Lanciano, Italy, around AD 700, a Basilian monk and priest was assigned to celebrate the Eucharistic sacrifice in the Latin rite. This is, they call the Eucharist what we call the Lord's Supper. You take the bread and the wine. Well, they use actual alcoholic wine, and they use leavened bread. And according to what we studied last week, the papacy teaches that the bread is the actual real flesh of Jesus, and the actual soul and divinity of Jesus in the bread and in the wine makes it his real blood and his real flesh. And you must believe that, or you're a heretic. And so this man was preparing the Eucharistic service, and usually celebrating in the Greek rite or the Greek way of doing things, using leavened bread. And having been taught that unleavened bread was invalid for the holy sacrifice, he was disturbed to be constrained to use unleavened bread this time. So instead of using leavened bread, that is bread with yeast, he decided, well, I'm going to use unleavened bread.